Welcome to dispatch number 3 from the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. My name is Andy Z. I'm here on Tuesday evening, June 2nd, in front of Los Angeles City Hall, where a big demonstration has just left. You can probably hear the police helicopters still going on overhead. I hope we're going to get through our message to you. Today, I'm going to be delivering a message that we feel very important to deliver to the youth and really all who are concerned with justice, followed by an important message about this whole last week of struggle since that brutal murder of George Floyd by the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, who has developed the new communism, a scientific approach to reality, which is what we apply here in this show, a strategy for revolution, and a blueprint for the new society. So you're going to hear a message from him read by a leader of the Revolution Club, Noche Diaz, and that will be followed by a clip of our comrades, our colleagues in Minneapolis. One of my co-hosts, Sunsara Taylor, is there, and she's there along with Carl Dix. So to our message to the youth. And really it's to everybody who cares about justice, to all who can smell the stench of fascism in the tear gas that's lofted over cities around this country, who felt the crack of the shields and the crack of the baton against knees and backs, who could feel the sting of the rubber bullets from the police departments, and then just yesterday heard those fascist words from Donald Trump about that he is going to call out the military, and if the Democratic mayors and governors don't really crack down, he'll bring out the troops to do so. To do what? To crush one of the most beautiful risings that we've ever seen, of thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of youth in 170 cities standing up because that boot on the neck of George Floyd was one boot too many. A certain awe has been broken. A certain grip has been loosened on the youth, and we cannot let that be crushed. So I say to all of the youth, they will come at us. They will come at you. But that must not be the end of your struggle. That must not be the end of our fight together for justice and for a whole different world. If they come at us, we must come back, and we must rally more and more people to take to the streets and not leave the way you haven't left during the day and at night. The stakes are nothing less than the future. The line it is drawn and the curse it is cast. There are two sides in this struggle. There is our side, the fight to end the oppression of black and brown people and the mass incarceration and the murder by police, sometimes 2.5 times a day over years and years and years, thousands of people lynched by the police following decades of being lynched by the Klan. And it is one and the same. It is the system of white supremacy. There is our side, all of those who hunger for justice here and around the world, who are also in the streets for all of that. There is our side, a generation of young people who see their future in jeopardy, who see a greater future in standing together against the powers that be. But there is another side. It is the side of white supremacy. It is the side of xenophobia, which is the hatred of foreigners, which today is taking expression under the Trump-Pence regime in concentration camps on the border and mass deportations and the denial of basic rights to people who are being forced to work in meatpacking plants where they're facing COVID virus in unprecedented degrees. And there is the people who are advocating patriarchy. There is the side of fascism. You saw that there in Donald Trump standing there with the Bible, signifying and signaling to that whole Christian fascist movement that he was with them, and signifying in his remarks about the Second Amendment, hinting at, not even subtly, at the danger of civil war that he would be willing to bring. There's also arrayed against us is the side of the Democratic mayors and governors who promise you some process to get to justice. They speak of injustice, but they unleash their police and their National Guard and their state troopers against you. Also arrayed against us, and we have to say this, all those people who say, I feel so bad, about George Floyd, and I hate the injustice, but they do nothing but now complain of the violence, but who did not get out in the streets right after George Floyd was murdered. They too have to decide which side are you on. There's two sides and there's two roads. One leads to a continuation of all that's been, to the brutal murder and degradation of peoples of color, to the devastation of the environment, to the wars, and now to the danger of a consolidation of fascism. It's a continuation and a satisfaction with everything that has been. And there's the path that you are beginning to blaze. Most of you out in protest for the first time. You're getting a taste of what it means to raise your heads. And this is a very positive thing. It's a time when you can begin to learn about what gives rise to this and what the solution could be, which is what we here at the RNL Revolution Nothing Less Show bring to you. And as I said before, this Trump-Pence regime presents a particular danger. This is not just more of the same. That was evidenced in his speech yesterday. This could mean the consolidation of a much more blatant form of rule over you and the crushing of all dissent. That cannot be allowed. So we have to fuse into our struggle for justice for George Floyd, to end police brutality and police murder, for the end of the oppression of black and brown people. We must add to that, the Trump-Pence regime must go, and fuck Trump. That has to be brought into the struggle. And people should check out the organization, Refuse Fascism. You'll be hearing more from them over the next couple of days. I want to close with this. The strength and the courage that you have brought is the door through which you can walk and continue to walk to a different future. They're going to come hard at you. And there's going to be sacrifice. Yes, the sacrifice of night after night, the sacrifice of superficial wounds from rubber bullets, the choking on tear gas, maybe jail. Trump is threatening long jail time for some people, and some even death, as one protester in Louisville, Kentucky faced. But there is nothing more important than your life could be about than standing up at this moment. There's nothing more important that all of us are standing with you and will be with you in the streets. We are with you in the streets of the cities where the movement for revolution is taking root. You need to become a part of this movement. You need to find out about it, but you need to stand strong. Because if in the face of oppression you retreat back to what was before, a big part of you will die. For those of us who lived through the 60s and the early 70s, we saw that happen before. The life that you are feeling and taking to the streets now is a life worth living for, and it's a life worth sacrificing for, not just for yourself, not just for revenge, in fact, not for revenge at all, but for the future of humanity. So with this, we're going to bring on Noche Diaz, who was reading from this message from Bob Avakian, Nothing Less. And you may notice that when he's reading, there's a whole protest behind him because he got here before I did. So he's going to be reading that message next. And then we'll go to our comrades, our colleagues in Minneapolis.
A statement from Bob Avakian, revolutionary leader, author, and architect of the revolutionary new communism. To all those who have risen up so powerfully and are demonstrating to say no more after the murder of George Floyd and all the other cold-blooded murders by police. To all those who have drawn inspiration from this righteous uprising. To all those who have had the blinders forced from their eyes and have been provoked to think anew about what kind of country it is that we live in. This has raised the biggest questions about what is needed for people everywhere to live fully as human beings. An end to institutionalized racism and murder by police, nothing less. An end to any way people anywhere are used, abused, and brutalized, nothing less. We need a world without white supremacy and male supremacy. A world where no one is regarded as alien. A world without war, where people from all over the globe, with a beautiful flowering of diversity, act together for the common good and are truly caretakers of the earth. This is not just a dream. The possibility for this is being powerfully demonstrated in the uprising of the people of all different races and genders from all parts of the world, refusing to remain silent or stay passive while all this oppression and brutality goes on. To make all this real, we need revolution, nothing less. A strategic plan for how to make this revolution and a sweeping vision and concrete blueprint for a radically different and much better world, where all this can become possible, can be found in the work that I, Bob Avakian, have done, including in the Constitution for the new Socialist Republic in North America. You can learn more about this revolution and become part of making it a reality by going to revcom.us and joining with the Revcoms. We do not need to live in this world where so much of humanity suffers so unnecessarily, under this system of capitalism imperialism that cannot exist without exploiting and degrading people, suffocating their humanity and killing them without mercy. We can do much better. Don't listen to talk about how it can never happen. Look around you. What seemed impossible yesterday is happening right now. Revolution. Why should we settle for anything less?
Okay, I want to thank Sunsara for making this easier for me, because I can just cut to the chase, because I agree with everything that she laid out. I want to start with this thing that she said about two choices. Two choices. When you look at everything that's happening around the world, when you see that pig put his knee on George Floyd's neck and keep it there while the brother is saying, "I can't breathe," while the brother is calling out to his mother, telling somebody to tell his kids that they love him, that he loves them, because he knew he was going to be killed. When you see that, and then everything else, the immigrants being put in detention camps on the border, all the rest, I don't need to go through that. When you see all of that, and then say, do we have to keep putting up with this? Do we have to just try to get a little bit better for ourselves within this? Or can we stop this through revolution? Then you got to start looking into this question of revolution. You got to say, is that the way to go? And see, here's the thing about Bob Avakian and his leadership. Because see, he's the kind of guy, and I know this because I met the man almost 50 years ago. I am not old. He's the kind of guy who would say, you know, we need a revolution. We got to figure out how to do that. We got to figure out what challenges that brings up before us. We got to go to work on that. And that's how he's gone at every question all the way through. And you can get the benefit of that by checking out a speech that he gave, which is up on revcom.us. Why we need an actual revolution and how we can really make revolution. And he breaks it down. How these problems that humanity faces because of this system can't be reformed. And to get rid of them, we got to get rid of the system. And then he gets into how we could get rid of the system and what that really means. And it ain't putting somebody else in the White House or wherever, because I remember when a black president went in the White House. A lot of people thought, well, this is going to take care of some problems. I told people at the time, they might be ready to put a black man in the White House, but they ain't ready to stop their police from murdering black people. And unfortunately, I was right. They were not going to stop their police from murdering black people. We got to take that up. We got to make revolution. We got to get rid of this system. And see, what you all did here is an important part of that process. Because when people get beat down again and again and again, they can't keep taking it. Somebody's got to stand up and say no more. And when you do that, all of the other people who are tired of taking this shit see an opening to stand up. And all of the people in the middle who know it's wrong but weren't sure what, if anything, could be done about it, when they see the people on the bottom standing up, many of them are drawn to stand with it. That's part of the basis for how we can make revolution, and you all contributed mightily to that process. But look, sisters and brothers, I got to give you another challenge, and that's to contribute more to this process, to engage this revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. Watch that talk that I talked about, why we need an actual revolution and how we can really make revolution. Check out the Constitution for a New Socialist Republic, where he talks about how the economy could be operated in a way that met people's needs. So that instead of the way it is now, where they destroy food in order to keep the prices up and the profits rolling in, that food could be produced and distributed so that people in this country who are starving got something to eat. So that people in different parts of the world got something to eat. All of that is possible. What stands in the way is this goddamn system and the way that it works. And it really is up to us. It don't come down to we get the Democrats in and they'll take care of it. We get a law passed and that'll take care of it. It comes down to a movement for an actual revolution, and people like you got to be part of making that movement happen. People like you got to enlist in it. You got to check out revcom.us. Look at the Constitution. Watch the speeches of Bob Avakian. You got to watch the Revolution Nothing Less show on YouTube at the RNL Show. You can find it. Y'all know this better than me, how to work that stuff. You got to do this, sisters and brothers, and you can do this. Revolution is not easy. Revolution ain't no cakewalk. It's hard and it's complex. That's why we need leadership. But with leadership, this is possible. And it is the only way to end these horrors once and for all. And see, for me, when I saw that knee on George Floyd's neck, it hurt me to my heart. And a lot of people would say, well, it took me back to Eric Garner. It took me back to Michael Brown. And it took me back to all of those people, but frankly, it took me much farther back. It took me back to my brother-in-law, Bernard Warfield, who the police gunned down on his mother's steps back in the 1970s. And I was out protesting that then. That's how long I've been at this. But now, I'm looking at this with some new eyes and seeing the possibility of it ending. I see that possibility in the work and the leadership of Bob Avakian. That's why I'm urging people to check this revolutionary leader out. I also see that possibility in the fire. You know, and some people was mainly talking about the fire that took down things like the 3rd Precinct, but the fire in the eyes of the people in the street who were saying no more of this shit. Who were saying, we're not gonna fold up and pack it in because you bring some cops out, because you bring the National Guard out. I see possibility in that, but those two things have got to be connected. The fire that was in y'all's eyes in the street, the determination to see that this shit is stopped, has got to get connected up with that revolutionary leadership. And on the basis of that, we can do miraculous things. We can bring into being a totally different and far better world for people to live in. I'm going to stop there.
So with that clip from Minneapolis, we're going to be closing out today's dispatch number 3. I want all of you to go to revcom.us and read what's up there, and to tune in tomorrow for episode number 11 of the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Central time. And even right now, go click the little bell for notifications so that as we post messages, you can find out about them, and click all. So for myself, Andy Z, thank you for watching Dispatches from the Revolution Nothing Less show.